Okay, just started the recording. Hi everyone, welcome to this week's NAOL review. I've been back from last season where I wasn't a reviewer. Excited to get started again. Okay, so first Joseki, very interesting. I think Black got a good advantage from there, but later the game definitely messed up where White was able to make a comeback. So typically, in the two-space low pincer for White is more common when the Komoku is facing another friendly corner, like this way. Because if you enter into any fighting scenario, it definitely helps that the adjacent stone corner is occupied by your own stones. So the Joseki move is Atari ones and extend. So now Black has many options. The simple move might be to make some exchange here and then jump. Or actually, Black will jump first, and then typically... Well, actually, I don't quite remember which way. Let's see. Yeah, maybe let's just say it doesn't matter too much, and typically we can end up with a shape like this. So Black can take the outside, White gets a corner. If White cannot really weaken Black's outside group, then the shape is typically slightly better for Black, but it's playable. Another simple way for Black to play is just to take the corner. It might be a little bit challenging for Q players to handle since White does end up getting a wall, but there's still a lot of Aji, and Black is happy taking the corner right off the bat. The thing to know with this variation is it's very simple. There's no other possibility for either side. And White's potential is pretty limited because Black already took all the points in the corner. And both sides are pretty open for Black. So White really has to get points in the center. Otherwise, the sides are very not good areas for White to develop. Pushing here has a problem because the two-space low pincer is low. It's too far away. So White doesn't have a good answer to this Hane. If White just extend, Black can descend here and kill this stone. So at this point, Black just needs to extend. And now this is a very simple Miai, A and B. And White essentially collapses because if Black can capture one of the two groups, then White's ended up with nothing. This might be overly complicated. So at this point, White has a chance because Black's outside is a lot weaker. So maybe White can maybe Atari here actually. So Black can no longer Hane because White can cut. I wonder, maybe Black has some sort of misread. At this point, there's no easy way to kill White. Well, let me check my audio settings. I just switched the microphone. Can people still hear okay? I assume it should be fine. If people can't hear me, just let me know, and I'll adjust again.
I can hear you fine.
Yeah, so here, let's look at a few things. So first of all, instinctively White wants to push out here, but maybe the ladder... Actually, the ladder works for White. Unless I'm misreading this. It does look like the ladder works for White. Does it not? Man, it's been a while. I'm not good at reading ladders anymore. Okay, so it actually does work for black. So it's good, always good to check because white has several ladders available. White can also push again. Actually, if white can push a few times, white can just net directly already. Yeah, so white can already net here. So black might be in trouble in this case. The other option is Atari here. And then maybe like this. And then now white can push. So notice white doesn't want to necessarily push first because then black can take away liberty. But white can start with a net. This might be a little more challenging for black. But even in the game variation, a big problem for white is actually this move. So here, white probably see that the corner is already dead. So white's 4 stones will lose a semi. It's okay, you know, it's a loss, but white can try to recover from this. Now, the most important thing is to seal the outside to try to at least gain some profit to offset the losses. So white has to start off by sealing black to the corner. So for example, white can attach and then seal like this. In this case, black is only up by 1 liberty, so black has to fix and then white can connect again. Just or fix the wall, spend another move here. So this killing that zone doesn't really help white at all because white's pretty much alive already, and that basically gives black another move on the outside. So now white's very weak. Yeah, here it's already gote. Black can choose to push cut here, or maybe turn again. So now if white jumps, black can cut, or white connect, black can continue to come out. So notice this group is still floating. You cannot say it's a thickness. So in the game, black just spent 2 moves here, but it's actually just gote. Interestingly, this fix feels important, but actually it's no longer. These 4 stones are no longer that big. The reason being black is already alive, and now these 4 stones are very light. So if white just tenuki, later black pushes, it's actually not important for white to save those 4 stones. So if black spends another move to kill these 4 stones, white will tenuki again. Yeah, now actually the game is about even. Earlier it was definitely much better for black, just because black plays some slow moves. So this is why pushing here first will be an important sequence. If black somehow plays here later first, later when black pushes, it will no longer be sente. But because black didn't commit to making white stronger, if you push here earlier without playing any stone on the inside, like along A14, then white will be more tempted to block. The difference here is one whole move. So notice the A14 stone may become useless if later, let's say black captures D13, like those 4 stones. So here's important to think flexibly. Because black's corner is all very strong, and black didn't make the C12 exchange, there's no rush for white to fix here. Okay, so black gained the first corner, but the game still continues relatively peacefully. So this is all normal. Here, the shape move typically is just to bump here and then come out. Black just needs to fix the cutting point here. Attachment is rare because it just helped white. Sorry, I'm recovering from a cold last week. The attachment just helped white locally. White can actually just extend. Because of the wedge weakness, it's hard for black to really attack this group. And if black responds again, then white can obviously take sente, as in the game. So here, cutting here is very big because now white doesn't have time to make the extension. Black can win this liberty capturing race. So a lot of this, the local fighting really depends on the sequence of moves. 9 out of 10, I think just attached will be better because you're putting more pressure on white, and that this maximizes the corner. So if you play here and white makes a base on the side, later white can still place attachment here. So black is not getting many points in the corner. Whereas black plays Q2 directly, black already has a corner secured. So there's no way for white to come in now. So I would say R3 just a little bit slow and not quite rigorous enough. So here might be the biggest issue where black collapse. Okay. So this a coast started. Typically black just need to Atari here. I'm not sure why black Atari from this side. The biggest problem was this ko is much lighter for white. So even if black were to win the ko, black has to connect here, and there's still a lot of bad aji actually. For example, this ladder. What black needed to do was to block from the outside to make this ko heavy for white. So white needs two very big ko threats, but I think white will struggle to find the second one. So maybe this one, and then black will definitely just capture. So now everything is dead. Now black is thick as a steel board. White doesn't have any ko threat that can compete with this. Because notice now the P2 stone is almost dead. There's no chance for white to live here. So white's loss here is very significant. Whereas the top right, white only gained maybe 25 points or so. But the bottom, I think, is in the neighborhood of 30, 40 points. Yeah, so reading and just shape issues are really important in this game. Actually, white doesn't even necessarily need to capture as long as white plays as a hane here. This will be very hard for black to deal with. Even if black try to play here and make a trade, this is clearly better for white because this started out with black's territory, now black has nothing, while white gained all the territory on the side. And if white blocks, obviously, then there's this ladder problem. Yeah, and this time it does actually work for white. Most of the time we want to extend from this side because it allowed white to have better shape, and this puts pressure on the bottom too. So Ataring from here is very painful. Interesting. So black Tanuki, I think white has to just kill these three. Yeah, just the ladder works. So you know, capturing one stone is like 30 points. Now this is 3 stones. So this is exactly the type of situation where capturing in the center is really powerful. Even if black gets another move in the corner, it's still not a big deal because white can hane and connect here. Black probably has to give up the stone on the side. And white can also just leave this alone for now and then attack the bottom black group for a little bit. White will probably get sente, save this stone, this part in sente. Let's say even at this point, white probably won't die. White can come back here. Or white can just want to play some moves in this area and then before coming back. So white can destroy everything in the bottom while still capturing this area. All black gain is the lower corner. So this would also effectively end the game. Yeah, now this maybe black made the same mistake I did about the ladder. Yeah, as soon as the ladder is captured, is taken, the game is over because black wasted so many moves here only for the outside to be completely destroyed. Yeah, so I think this is pretty much a highlight of the game. One thing I want to stress is these very basic local life and death. I think at 7 and 8K for these two players, they still sometimes struggle with it. At this point, hopefully the viewers will know that the local shape is dead for black. Black can hane and peep here. So this is extremely important to know. It doesn't matter what black plays here, white just try to get the vital point at a6. I think one can argue that black has some aji because white can maybe make a ko in this area, and because white is not maybe 100% strong, maybe white will extend here. But even in this case, it's a direct ko. So this is a ko for white, where black doesn't have local threats really. So this is much better than the game where black is out to live unconditionally. Yeah, so it turned out to be pretty lopsided win for white. With that, I'll move on to the second game, but if there are questions, I'm happy to come back. Okay, Jaden. So I know Jaden. He's a black player. Looks like black won the game. So typical opening, but the Kosumi at 3-3 is very aggressive. Typically, this move is only possible when, let's say, black has double pincer, and then maybe black can Kosumi at 3-3. I think white can potentially just fix. Now the corner is not very big and black is under a lot of pressure. White's shape will be really strong. Black still probably wants to push and cut. If white extend, black can extend here. Right now it's a little bit hard for white to jump out. Black can cut here. So maybe white needs a little bit of help, like around here, before white can actually seal. Yeah, in this shape, if black cannot cut, the fighting will definitely not be favorable for black. So this is very important to know. Okay, so most likely black wants to push cut this side. So this will create, because black has a pincer so on L17. But the game sequence also worked out for black. I think at this point, white probably cannot save the O17 stone. Yeah, white is just too weak on the outside. Sometimes this type of squeeze is very powerful, but right now white just doesn't have enough help on the outside. So if white has some stone, let's say around here, then this squeeze will be possible. But the game sequence is premature. Black has a good thought here with the squeeze, but white can really just counter by falling back, just extending here. So that wedge wouldn't get black anything. Even if black tries to cut here, white has this Hane. Black's liberty is very tight. So white's not really afraid. In this case, black still technically gain a little bit by capturing one stone, but still, the profit is very minimal. Here, the shape is definitely to extend, because white can potentially just get sente, or even extending, spend another move to extend here. Black still have a little bit of liberty shortage issues, because white has 4 liberties in the top. The game move of Kosumi here is kind of neither here nor there. Black Tenuki here locally. White still can't seal this area. It's probably still big for black to extend, but it just seems like no matter what, white's follow-up locally will be H14 or maybe G14. But white would rather get another stone in this area. Okay, black spent another move for the squeeze, but right now the squeeze doesn't do anything, so white got the initiative here. This may actually reduce black's liberty, potentially. I think now black needs to be careful. If white just descend down, it might be hard for black to win this fight. Because white can push here. So locally, if white wants liberty, typically descending down is the best move. And because black can't necessarily get liberty from pushing here, I think the capturing way should favor white. The other thing black needs to be worried about is actually the center. White Atari here, this is for liberty. If white plays another move here, these are all forcing, potentially. So white can already get a squeeze, basically. White can get a squeeze on the outside. And this already profit a lot in the center. So notice, even though black started off with an advantage by killing the two stones, if black has to spend 4 moves capturing these later, the territory in the upper side is it's only about 20 points. So which white can easily get that in the center. So after a few slack moves, I think the game is already pretty even. And of course, if white can kill the right side, definitely white will be in the lead again. The issue here for black is to not taking care of the center. So if black can just come out in the center, like here, then this white group will definitely be weak. And at some point later, the invasion, like at A or B, will become more realistic. But black invaded directly without considering the center or the right side. So that puts black in danger. So it seemed like white also didn't play correctly. Yeah, if you Atari and Hane allow your opponent to Panuki, it's really a good move. This is only chosen when your opponent's territory, when you're completely surrounded by your opponent. Like if you're invading your opponent's big moyo and you just want to get something. But right now, this is a very even fight. So just the fact that black's getting a Panuki, we know that this fight, this variation is favorable for black. Here, black doesn't actually have to connect. Black can honestly just extend and try to find a code. Even if white wins this, white is still pretty weak. So what black should consider something a little bit more proactive than just connecting. The biggest issue is probably the peep. Black really just needs to Atari and Sente and then just Tenuki. Maybe try to attack white here, or jump in the center. Or later, if black approaches in the bottom, this will threaten white's life and death. So white will probably have to spend another move at S2. Peeping exchange doesn't change the fact that white is alive locally. So it just loses a lot of points. Okay, but at least black found this Kema, so now white is floating. I would say a big missed opportunity is coming out in the center. Because if black Tenuki like in the game, white can seal in Sente. I think the value of this seal may be a little bit overlooked by both players. Because now white is all completely connected, and the center becomes white's sphere of influence. White can continue to develop the center. If black comes out, it's almost like a double Sente because white is not alive yet. So most likely white has to spend more moves to fix the center, whether this group or on this side. So this move really determines the thickness of the whole game. So now if white is weak in the center, it will be hard for white to get any significant moyo on the left. But whereas if white has a center wall, then it's very easy to see white getting 30-40 points on the left side. Yeah, here white's direction of play is still a little bit off, I would say. So here, just separating black doesn't profit white. We don't want to attack two living groups. So in this case, the right is completely alive. The bottom may be a little weak, but at this point, black has a miai of connecting or getting living on the side. So if anything, white wants to take away the base and force black to spend another move here. Black connecting to the right side, this is completely dame. So if white can profit a little bit on the bottom to force black to connect back, this is a good trade for white. Whereas if white plays in the center and black takes points here, black's getting point and white's getting nothing. It's not like by jumping here, white can gain anything in the center. This area is pretty barren. Neither side can get territory. So obviously the focus will still be the sente squeeze, but just thinking about the shape and fighting locally, white will want to play, the direction to play is on the side, not from the center. There are situations where splitting is a no-brainer. That's when both sides are very weak, and when you split, you create kind of a miai attack. But right now, both sides are pretty strong and one side is completely alive. So we should prioritize our weaknesses, which is in the center, or just points on the side. Yeah, so here the vital point actually is still the tiger's mouth. If black controls this point, notice white's corner is not alive. So later it might be white who has to play a dame move to connect. So the situation be very, very different than here. Where white gets the point and black has to play the dame. This peep is a common move to maximize territory on the left, but right now it might be a little heavy because it also eliminates this possibility. Or maybe later black can play the Kosumi bump in sente. So black doesn't want to make this exchange too early because black may use the other sentes instead. However, that said, white definitely should connect because there's nothing more urgent than fixing the corner. In the game, white wanted to play it more proactively, but unfortunately after black plays a series of moves, it's impossible for white to attack the black's group. And now white's corner is pressed to the first line and the second line. So it started out with a big corner, and now it's well under 10 points. So notice white saved these stones, but it's all completely in dame, and white even lost one more stone. So this result is quite bad for white because it started out with white corner, and it ended up white got gote, and black is still strong everywhere. Oh, excuse me. One issue I'm wondering is whether there's any aji in the bottom. So if white Kasumi, just Atari probably wouldn't work because black can kill these stones. But if white Kasumi, maybe there's some liberty issues because if black Atari from here, white can make a jump sente. So this semi favors white. So maybe black plays here, but if white can just make this move sente, this is actually better for the fight favors white. And if black tries to kill these three stones, white can play here. Maybe there's some life and death issues. So Kosumi, Hane sente, and then Kosumi. Yeah, and on the outside it's probably sealed. There's no way for black to escape. So this is something interesting to look at. If black Atari, then white Atari and sente, this looks risky for black. Yeah, at the very least, it seems like white can do something like a Kosumi Atari. This looks like a ko already. So maybe this sequence is actually sente. Black just needs to spend another move to get rid of the aji. Descending here is really big too. So this result will still be decent for black. Yeah, potentially maybe black should have just blocked here to avoid that problem. Here, it will still be a good time for white to play the seal. So now, because black has Atari, maybe white doesn't want to play this way. But at least white can extend here. So now the center is completely surrounded, it's connected, and white still has this nice squeeze. Yeah, it looks like white started off with a slight territory deficit, and because the invasion was successful for black, and white wasn't able to take advantage of black's weakness here, the game was just favorable for black. Yeah, I'll spend another minute to think about the bottom. So, is it really? Yeah, this kind of life and death is interesting. You don't really see in Tsumego books, but it definitely comes up every game. If black attaches, black can definitely connect, but the problem is even if black connects, white can still make something happen. So at the very least, it seems like there's always a ko aji. Yeah, there's always a ko aji here. In this case, white is all connected, so black is just dead. So black has to be very careful about the sequence of moves. Actually, this is just... Yeah, black cannot extend because white can just white can cut. So no matter what, black cannot stop white from at least having a ko locally. This will be a big liability for black. If white can find the sequence, I think white will definitely most likely win the game. White has some very big ko threats in the top. And last thing to notice, in this game, black just bumped here and white connected. But it seemed like black can do a little better by making the Atari and cut. Black can force a squeeze locally. Yeah, this is much better because one, there's a lot of more ko threat, and if white doesn't respond correctly, maybe black can actually just capture white as well. So it doesn't hurt to start with Atari to completely cut off your opponent. If white is really not afraid of the aji, white should fix around here to maximize the points. So the fact that white connected here means maybe black could have something a little better. Yeah, in terms of endgame, definitely Hane. This because it's Sente, or almost double Sente. Because it has a clear follow-up. If black just captures this zone, there's no follow-up. So focusing on moves with follow-up. So here. And Hane here will be a nice Sente too. Black can gain a few points in Sente. And black went on to win by 9 points. Really, mostly it's some advantage at the beginning. And in the bottom left, white failed to really punish black. Yeah, let's see if the AI sees anything. Looks like black is in trouble. I'm not. Maybe someone can check with the OGS AI later. But if white can just connect in the bottom, black is definitely not in a good position. Yeah. Right, so the game really focused on whether white can get the seal. If white can get the seal, it's decent for white actually. But if black could come out, then the game will be very different. So the idea here, connecting is slow, black should capture here. So if white captures, then black can get the vital point of the tiger's mouth. Capturing one stone doesn't do anything. And then if white tries to Hane here, black can just connect everything. So black still got all the territory while white has a weak group. And this Ponuki really put black in a strong position. Okay, with that, I'll wrap discussing this game. If there are questions, I'm happy to come back to this game as well. Wow, so a lot of killing and fighting this game. Okay, pretty typical start. Here, one thing to consider is because black's position is very low on both ends, it will be a very appropriate time to choose this Joseki. If black pushes here, white can just reduce black's bottom influence. So because all the shapes are pretty strong, white cannot expect to get a lot on the outside or the center. So in this type of game, usually the corner territory will be supreme. It's quite unusual for white to tenuki at this point. It has to be a very special circumstance. Right now, white probably still has to extend, and black can get sente to maybe turn or do something else. So white can't really get much on the left, which is why I would play a little differently as white earlier. So maybe here white can choose the cut Joseki or double Hane, just so white can maybe move more stone toward the center or the right side. So it seemed like black shape is definitely better here. Yeah, so white lost a lot here. The cut is probably the first mistake from black. This ladder doesn't work. So black is better off just playing here directly. Honestly, it seemed like there's a very significant skill gap. White tries to kill or attack this group, but black already has an out on the outside, and black can also just connect in the corner, like in the game. So white basically played a dame, or near a dame, or like just pass in this important fight. So right off the bat, white basically collapsed. In this situation, black can also just tenuki and play in the center. Connecting is close to dame at this point, so black can play more proactively, or even tenuki to fix a corner, because actually right now, extending will be a very big sente move. It's sente north of about 12 points. In this game, black has to respond, so it's even bigger. So whether white pushes here or Kasumi here, white can even turn in sente. So this will be much better for white. So white's probably a little bit behind right now. So white should think a little more proactively. So maybe just an extra line. There's no reason to play one space away because white is not afraid of an invasion by black. So white needs to put a little more pressure on black, maybe like this. So now this actually leaves a good shoulder hit reduction from black. So black played pretty well here. Black always has the right direction to play. The hunting doesn't quite work. White can actually just cut. Yeah, this is a capture shape because black has a lot of stones around already. Locally, black probably should have Hane here. And at this point, black can probably connect because white is pretty weak. Even if black yeah, there's a attach here, I don't think it would be a huge issue for black. Even if black is really afraid, black can also just make the squeeze. Oh, this is your game, yes. Yeah, so I think you played really well overall as black in this game. Just a slight inaccuracy here. If white extends, this will be a pretty big loss in terms of territory. You probably have to block here and then white can bump against Centane. Another thing, if you want to play more proactively, is probably just to turn. Yeah, maybe this is definitely more aggressive, but maybe the fight can actually same eye works out for you. Looks a little risky for white too. Right, yeah. So you're correct. If you're ahead and you have a clear path, maybe you don't want to complicate the game too much. Yeah, if you have questions about any particular part of the game, I'm happy to go there as well. Oh, here you probably play too safe, I would say, because you can turn here and cut. So there's really, white is really not doing anything here. Yeah, so if the 3 stone die in the game, then yeah, I can see why this is the most important mistake for you. White needs to jump here first to fix a cutting point, so at least black normally has 2 cutting points. I think if you turn here, there's really no risk for you. You can cut. Yeah, so there's no way for white to save. Yeah, you can miss this one. So whenever you see Liberty, tight Liberty like this, you almost have head of 2 stones. Always consider the cut possibility. Yeah, sounds good. So you choose to sacrifice it. The problem is you don't really have to fix this cut, and even if you do, you want to just block. So the block is a much more effective way of fixing the cut. See, there's another cutting point. If you play here, now this stone will become light. So white can tenuki and maybe, let's say, push here. Now all of a sudden your earlier lead becomes very tenuous. And white will maybe just capture these stones. I think that the game is now really close. Yeah, the descent is just better in terms of fixing the cut. You really have to get rid of this Liberty. It may not seem like much, but a move like this is worth more than 10 points. So you're giving up a Sente block, which is very, very important. So that's almost like a Komi gone. Be careful about playing bumps like this. Sometimes you can utilize this Kosumi. Let's say white extends here and you can block. Right, and then there's a Hane Aji. So if you don't need to make those exchanges, probably skip those because you can use something else. Right, like blocking here doesn't require you to push. And in most cases, the push will just hurt you down the road. Right, if you want to create co-threats, locally you definitely want to do the cut. And let alone maybe there's some endgame or other Aji. So just save it. Oh, this is a wedge here. Is really interesting. I think white also kind of got tricked. White should probably just block here. I think you can start with the turn. Or maybe it doesn't matter too much. Yeah, I think it does because you should turn in Hane and connect and then wedge. So now white doesn't have a chance to fix the cutting point. If you wedge here, white can block. So you can cut and kill these stones, but you're also leaving 2 stones behind for white. Yeah, so it looks like you killed a lot, but think about it. You got 4 stone, that's 8 point plus 3 more here. So this is about 11, but you also almost sacrifice 2. So you're giving up like maybe 3-4 points back after capturing 11. So this is only worth maybe 8 points total, 7 to 8. And at this point in the game, there are many moves worth bigger than 8 points. For example, if you Kosumi here, if you descend here, and even if you play anything in the center like jumping, I'm gonna guess this will be worth more than whatever you get on the left. Yeah, of course, you capture everything on the side, so that would be maybe 20 points instead of 10. So this is definitely a success for you. Another thing, endgame thing to note, yeah, it did work out. White forgot to Atari here in the game, or maybe White tried to save it, but now you're working into late game and Yosei. So if you can turn in Sente, that's almost 2 points in your favor. Reverse Sente, like one and a half roughly. You have to pick the right timing, otherwise white wouldn't block, but it's something to think about. You might be able to get it. It seemed like a small thing, but if you can get 1 or 2 points out of nothing, that can change the result of many games. Okay, so here is a common mistake. You should Tari here first, or yeah, think about Tariing here first, and then play here. So if white Atari, then you get a Ko. If you're not afraid of a Ko, you can play here, and then white can play this way. Yeah, in the game, I think white just misread here, so you gain an extra stone. So that's probably why the game worked out for black. Yeah. Right, not be afraid of Ko's. So the thing is, Ko is you cannot really avoid the Ko. You have to Atari here. There's no other choice. So it's really white has a choice between Ko or no Ko. If white wants to play a Ko, white can play like this, potentially to gain an extra point or 2. Otherwise, white will Atari, and then just extend. The difference here is very minuscule, and you might be able to create Ko threads around here. So most likely white would just extend. So you don't have to Atari in this case. Notice if you make that Atari, you do actually lose 1 point. So that's the difference. But if it will be a little confusing. So if white wants to play the Ko, if you're worried about white making the Ko, then make this Atari exchange will help you because that gains you a Ko thread. So in this case, if you want to start the Ko, you need to win by 2 Ko threads. But if you can make Atari exchange earlier, then you only need 1 big Ko thread or 1 extra Ko thread. Yeah, 1 more Ko thread than white, then you can win this Ko. So this is a subtle difference. So at the expense of 1 point, you can gain 1 Ko thread, which might give you an advantage somehow. But right now, white had the easy out of just extending. So if you lose 1 point here, I think white would be happy to just extend here. Alternatively, maybe you can consider connecting. So then because you have this Sente, maybe you can push in. But right now, I guess if white can just profit in the bottom, maybe it may not be worth it. But it requires some reading. So is white really alive at this point? I think it just requires some reading. Yeah, it looks like white is not completely alive. Yeah, it looks like white is not completely alive. So you might be able to consider this move. So it will create some trouble for white to seal. I mean, you're up 20 points, so it doesn't seem particularly close after that. And then you killed more stuff. Oh, the right side. Yeah, that was. I think white made a lot of silly reading issues this game. Ah. Yeah, your biggest problem was after the top. You push and then block. That lost you. The sequence lost you pretty much 10, almost 10 points. I see. Yeah, time issue. Yeah, so it's really pretty much the game was sealed after you gained killed the left side. Yeah, there's really just a lot of slow moves. Maybe there's still some issues in the center. Or there's a Kosumi. So jumping here is not that big. Or even just descend. I would say white biggest issue was reading, because from the beginning, even early game like this, peeping here, white just makes one reading error after another, and not getting the sente extension in the corner. In the top, white chose to play the cut, but there's obviously a weakness. So it seemed like in most of the important part, white just wasn't reading correctly. And whereas black, you made a couple errors like here. But I think eventually you always find the important part of the game. Yeah, any other notable questions? We have the last like 4 or 5 minutes. Oh yeah, sounds good. Yeah, thanks for stopping by. Yeah, it's good. You even found this wedge Tetsuji, so you gained an extra point, 2 points from that. I'll say here the wedge is probably not good because white can gain a stone and you also captured one. So overall, you're not benefiting from this trade. Okay, so if there are no further questions, I'll just end the review here. Best of luck in the rest of your season.